Hello, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter at Hawk Blogger, and you can also find me on Instagram at Hawk Blogger. I have, for the first time, decided to start streaming on Instagram today. We'll see how that goes. Going to start posting some reels there as well. I am one of the few people. I'm a weird guy. If you don't, you should already know that about me, but I'm a weird guy. I have been completely absent from Instagram. It's actually one of my most proud accomplishments. I do absolutely nothing on Instagram. I don't read Instagram. I don't follow people. I don't consume it. And I definitely don't have a presence for the most part. Now, that is also, from a business perspective, from a reach perspective and engagement perspective, probably not my wisest move. And so, yeah, I'm going to give that a shot. Definitely seems like Reels has been growing, as has been Threads and things of that nature. So let's see if we get a little traction over at Instagram and see how that goes. I will definitely be publishing some highlights and Reels there, if nothing else. It's a little wonky going live on Instagram. For all the tech folks out there, it's got some weird things, like you got a non-static API key that you use for streaming, and it only lasts for an hour. And I don't know, they're weird over at Instagram, but we're going to try it. So today's show, I'm really excited about. This has been a long requested show where people have wanted me to deep dive on our undrafted free agents, the Seahawks undrafted free agents. And I thought, why not today? Beautiful day, Wednesday here in the Northwest. And we have not had a chance to really get to know these guys. I think some other shows have probably covered them, but I have not covered them as deeply here. So what I thought I would do is go through each of the undrafted free agents. Probably won't get through all of them, but we'll try to go through it. And I'm going to do it in descending order, or would that be ascending order? I always get those mixed up. From highest ranked, lowest number, to lowest ranked, highest number. I will go through each of them, and I'm going to do this based off of the consensus big board that Arif Hassan puts together, the same thing we use to talk about other draft prospects. But we'll find out who is the top ranked undrafted free agent on the Seahawks roster according to the big board. And then I'll go through and I'll do what I've done in other cases with other players, other prospects. We'll see if there's any scout information. We might have to do a little more foraging to find it, but I'll look in Dane Brugler's Beast. I'll look in PFF. I'll look in other places to see what information we can find about this player. I will also try to see if our friend Kent Lee Platty has anybody on there at ras.football and take a look there as well. So without further ado, well, actually a little more ado. I do want to thank all of our YouTube members. It's really cool to have you here. I see Corey Hickok. I want to wish you a good morning. Caleb Epp, absolutely good morning to you. Jeffrey Ford, good morning to you. Good morning to everybody. And afternoon, it looks like, for Hans, wherever Hans is in the world. Good evening, sounds like, from TD. So people are all over the world listening. I love that. It's a great way to start or end your day. But now's the time to join as a YouTube member if you haven't already. The link is pinned to the chat. It's in the description of the video. And a great time to join as a Patreon member, patreon.com/hawkblogger. You get all the audio versions of this podcast. And the funny thing is, I heard secondhand some like a little bit of dislike of the opening music that I use for the audio edition. And I'll admit I haven't put that much thought into it. I grabbed some royalty-free music and stuck it in there. I'm telling you, I'm announcing, I'm going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to try to today, maybe not before I publish, but we'll see. I'm going to try to create, if nothing else, I will have new music for the intro today. I will promise that. I'm also going to try to potentially create an intro. I've never done that. Might have some fun pulling some things together and try to create a real intro for the show. I'll try to do that for Real Hawk Talk as well, and we'll see if that's any good. It should be fun. I enjoy playing around with all the Adobe products that I used to build. So that is something to look forward to, but you only will get that as a patreon.com/hawkblogger subscriber, as a patron. So please do that. All right. And was there anything else? I think that was it. I will tell you that tonight at around 8 o'clock, it's looking like 8 o'clock, we're going to have Real Hawk Talk. Evan Hill will be back on the show. Jeff Simmons will be on the show. So a late show tonight, but looking forward to it. So we'll talk with the fellas tonight, hear what's going on with them. And tomorrow, I am trying to finalize a player interview. It's so funny. The players are so hard to pin down. I mean, that's part of why I didn't want to commit to the Byron Murphy interview last week, because one, I thought the Seahawks would try to stop it if they knew that it was happening before his press conference. Two, the fact of the matter is these guys are kids. Half of them are kids, and they're off doing a million things. And so it's a little hard to pin them down. But I am hopeful. It probably will not be in the morning. I can almost guarantee it will not be in the morning. It looks like it will be in the afternoon after his workout. I'm trying to finalize the time, but keep an eye out. And this is why you need to subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get notified, because if you want to listen to it live, you'll have to wait until I can confirm it. I may do a morning show as well, but again, you'll just have to stay subscribed and updated on the channel. All right. That was a lot of preamble. Let's get into it. We are going to talk today about undrafted free agents, and we're going to play a little game. You can play along with me. The Seahawks have 16 undrafted free agents that they signed. We are going to go in order of their big board rank from best to worst, or highest to lowest, maybe is a nicer way to put it. And you can guess along with me which of these guys has the highest ranking. I will read out their names for you just so you have them. You don't have to, write these down, but give you a fighting chance. I certainly wouldn't be able to name all of them. We have Sonny Anderson, also Sundiata Anderson is his full name, from Grambling. He's a linebacker. We have Nelson Caesar. He is a linebacker out of Houston. We have Siobhan Cordero, a quarterback out of San Jose State. Easton Gibbs, a linebacker out of Wyoming. Garrett Greenfield, a tackle out of South Dakota State. Hayden Hatten, a wide receiver out of Idaho. George Holani, a running back out of Boise State. Carlton Johnson, a cornerback out of Fresno State. Devere Levelston, a defensive end out of SMU. Also a graduate of DeSoto High, went to school the same time as our first round pick, Byron Murphy. Kobe Lewis, a running back out of Florida Atlantic. Mike Nowitzki, a center out of Kansas. Torrance, a cornerback out of Arizona State. Jack Westover, familiar name, tight end out of Washington. And D. Williams, wide receiver out of Tennessee. Rasan I'm going to say Rasan Williams, the second, linebacker out of Louisiana Tech. And Tamarick Williams, running back out of North Dakota State. All right, so those are the names. I just read all 16. Who do you think is the highest ranked UDFA in this class? And I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up. The lowest ranked player drafted on the big board overall by any team was Travis Clayton out of Bang Stoke RFC by the Buffalo Bills. And his big board rank was 524. The lowest Seahawk draft pick, interestingly, was the second lowest on the big board that got drafted. His name was Mike Jarrell, friend of the show, out of Findlay. He was ranked 472. So that's the lowest ranked player. 524 was the lowest rank overall. 472 was the lowest ranked Seahawk that was drafted. Now, where is the highest ranked undrafted free agent. You're going to be surprised. The highest ranked Seahawk undrafted free agent was 171 on the big board. 171. That is quite high. And in fact, it's so high that I had to see how many players were higher on the big board that did not get drafted. There was 1, Gabriel Murphy, 2, Leonard Taylor, 3, Bo Brady, 4, Curtis Jacobs, 5, Javion Cohen. 5 players, only 5 players were higher ranked on the big board that were not drafted. This Seahawk undrafted free agent was the 6th highest ranked player that was not drafted. His name, folks, is Nelson Caesar. He is the edge player out of Houston, the highest ranked on the big board at 171. So what do we know about this guy? Let's learn about Nelson Caesar. And we're going to start with Mr. Brugler's big beast, all right? And we're going to find Nelson Caesar. Let's see if I can type properly. Why is that not working? There we go. It just took a little while. So Nelson Caesar was the 16th ranked edge player for Dane Brugler. Give you some idea. The players ranked around him, right ahead of him was Brennan Jackson out of Washington State. Same grade round. They were projected as 5th round picks by Dane Brugler. 13th, which was mocked a lot to the Seahawks, was Jalix Hunt out of Houston Christian. We talked about Gabriel Murphy. Below Nelson Caesar in some of these ranks, Mohamed Kamara out of Colorado State. A lot of people talked about him. Havon Solomon out of Troy. Jalen Harrell out of Michigan. ZTF out of Washington. Grayson Murphy, who made visits with the Seahawks out of UCLA. So a wide range here. So let's go ahead and find out a little bit more about the 16th ranked edge rusher on Dane Brugler's draft board. He is 6'3", 6'2" and change, 6'2.5", 254 pounds. He is almost 23 years old. He's 22.9 years old, at least when this was written. He was born in Spring, Texas. His mother died when he was 9. His father died when he was 12. So he moved in with his aunt and uncle and grew up in Missouri City. He played some soccer and some basketball and track growing up. But his father, Nelson Jr., and uncle, Michael, were both standout football players in high school, and he wanted to follow their path. His uncle played at Texas Southern in the early 90s with Michael Strahan, interestingly. And his father was recruited by Oklahoma. Caesar started playing football at age 11, initially on the offensive line before moving to defensive end. For high school, Caesar transferred to Ridgeport High, where he was a 3-year varsity letterman pass rusher. He was named Defensive Newcomer of the Year in the district as a sophomore with 55 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles in 2016. As a junior, he had 36 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. Interesting, all these forced fumbles. We'll have to see if that's something. As a senior, he helped Ridge point to a 10-2 mark, 3rd straight district title. He finished with 40 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Okay. 21.5 career sacks, set a school record. Caesar also lettered in track with his personal best of a 45-foot, 10-inch in the shot put. He was a 3-star recruit, was number 32 weak side defensive end in the 2019 recruiting class, and number 59 recruit in Texas. Following his breakout sophomore season, he received his first scholarship offer, Texas Tech. He collected several Power 5 offers, including from Arizona, Arkansas, Iowa State, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and TCU. He grew up as an LSU fan, but didn't seriously consider other offers because he thought the Tigers would eventually offer, which didn't happen. Once he realized LSU wasn't an option, Caesar opted to stay close to home and committed to former Houston coach Major Applewhite. Caesar was the highest-ranked recruit in the Cougars 2019 class. Applewhite was fired 2 weeks after Caesar signed. Oh, my gosh. And replaced by Dana Holgerson. And Caesar accepted his invitation to the 2024 Senior Bowl. Interesting backstory. I'm not going to tell the full backstory of everybody. I thought his backstory was pretty interesting. Lost both his parents. He's gone through a ton of adversity. Thought he was going to go to LSU. Didn't get the offer. Ended up at Houston. Signed with Houston. The coach was fired 2 weeks later. Interesting path. He had in college 18 sacks for his career. He is a 5-year player in college. Pandemic shortened season, so had that as an issue, but had 9.5 sacks last year, 13.5 tackles for loss. At the combine, he had we'll talk about his numbers in a little bit, but he ran a 4.89 40-yard dash. Not the fastest 40. As far as the summary for him, he was a 2-year starter at Houston. He lined up the field, a defensive end. It's a 4-man front, primarily from a 2-point stance, so standing up. After learning from former Cougars defensive ends like Peyton Turner and Logan Hall, his production showed gradual improvement each season in college. He set career best as a senior, including a Big 12 leading 9.5 sacks in the program's first season in the conference. Caesar attacks with upfield burst and speed and shows just enough bend to access different pass rush lanes. Against the run, he has range and hustle, although his subpar anchor and physicality at the point of attack will be tougher to mask at the next level. Overall, Caesar finds himself slowed down by power-based blockers, but he shows a variety of pass rush, and NFL teams could be encouraged by his athletic flashes and football character. He projects as a part-time rusher with promise. Interesting. Let's see if Mr. Zerline has anything to say about Nelson Caesar. He does. He does not have him highly ranked, but he has him lower than Mr. Brugler. He has him as an average backup or special teamer. And he projected he would get drafted, though, in round 5 or 6. Caesar was a 2-year starter and 2023 team captain who has average size but above average power. He's built for contact balance, which shows up consistently on tape when battling against much bigger opponents on the edge. While he has played some stack linebacker in the past, which means off-ball linebacker, that's an interesting note, he might not have enough straight line speed or instincts to survive there as a pro. Caesar has worked at adding elements to his pass rush, but the only item that might be a translatable winner for him is his speed to power long arm. He has a chance to become a solid backup or special teams performer as a 3-4 outside backer. That's pretty interesting. I mean, who was my favorite edge rusher in this draft? Jared Verse. What did I love about Jared Verse? Speed to power. He was the best speed to power guy in the draft. And his long arm was brutal, man. He just walked tackles back into the quarterback's lap. He sometimes put them flat on their backs, which I just don't see, but you saw him do it a lot. What do we also know about Mike Macdonald? Mike Macdonald wants his linebackers, wants really everybody in the front 7 to be capable of multiple things, including rushing the passer. I think this is part of why Jerome Baker's a good fit for the Seahawks and why they added him. He was a pretty good blitzer and has had significantly more sacks than a guy like Jordan Brooks in his career. Caesar sounds like a guy who honestly sounds a little bit like Derek Hall. Sounds like a Derek Hall type of player. A little bit more straight line, a little bit more stiff, but with some power. And that has something as a profile that could be interesting against the run. Now, Brugler says he struggled against power. Zerline says that was a strength of his. Who's right? We'll find out together. Now, if we look at, well, let's go ahead and see if he shows up here. Nelson Caesar, yes, on PFF was the 165th ranked player, which is quite high, similarly to where Brugler had him as an edge. His grades, interestingly, he actually declined as a senior. He had an 81.4 grade as a sophomore or a third year player, 82.7 2 years ago, which is quite good, and then 73.5 last year, which isn't bad, but not great. His pass rush grade was 71.3. His run defense grade was 76.6. His true pass set pass rush grade, again, true pass set means when everybody knows it's a pass play, so the pass rushers can just pin their earbacks. They don't have to worry about defending the run. The offensive tackles know that they're going to have to pass protect. This is one of the better ways to know. You want to see that improve as a pass rusher. You want to see it also ideally at least stay consistent as a pass blocker. But in this case, it improves. He's a 76.7 pass rusher in true pass set pass rush grade. Pass rush win rate was 13.6%. Not fantastic, not terrible. I think 15 and above is pretty good. 10 to 15 is good. His run stop rate 7.2. He was relatively consistent in his grades throughout his final year. His high grade was 78. His low grade, well, he did have a 49.3 grade, but for the most part, he was between 66 and 76. Like pretty steady. What they say is Caesar projects as a versatile outside linebacker type of edge player who can be productive in rotational role in late down situations. He has played on both sides on punt and kick teams. He's played some off-ball linebacker. Adequate quickness for club and rip moves. However, his length likely won't be something that consistently can win in the NFL. He can generate push from bull rushes when defending the run, but that is more due to correct leverage than natural strength. Let's see about his RAS. Should we see about his RAS? Let's see about his RAS. Nelson Caesar. Nelson Caesar does not have a RAS profile. What I can tell you is he was profiled as a defensive end. I wonder if I can change this as a linebacker. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so as a linebacker, his size grade is good. It's elite, actually. His speed grade is very poor. 22nd percentile speed as a linebacker. 10-yard split, 0.74. So as an off-ball linebacker, that doesn't make a lot of sense. As a defensive end, his size is poor. His speed is poor. 33rd percentile height, 50th percentile weight. This is again as a defensive end. 40-yard dash is 49th percentile. 10-yard split was 21st percentile. So, not exactly, I think from an athletic standpoint, not exactly the most exciting guy to look for. let's just check one thing. Since he's our highest rated guy, I'm going to do a little extra here. Let's go to Mock Draftable, see who else compares to Nelson Caesar. All right. So this is as an edge player. David Ugwobu. I don't know him. He's a 2024 guy. Jonah Ellis out of Utah, who went much higher. He's a 90% comparable to Mr. Caesar. DeMarcus Lawrence. That's fascinating. 81% comparable athletic profile to DeMarcus Lawrence. Well, let's hope that's what he turns into. He's also an 80.5% match with D Ford. But that gives you some idea of the type of guy we're talking about. I always like to look at that. So that is Nelson Caesar. Interesting guy, interesting player. And if I remember right, they gave him quite a bit of, let me just double check. Nelson Caesar. He's number 46, by the way, if you're curious. Where he had some guaranteed money. Yes. Seattle gave him a $10,000 signing bonus and guaranteed $100,000 of his salary. That's pretty impressive. Not something that you normally get to do. I'm watching a few of his highlights. I can't share them because then I'll get a copyright strike on the video. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the Derek Hall comparison is necessarily a bad one. Looks like a physical dude, high effort guy, interesting player. Okay. Let's keep going. All right. Next guy on the list of big board rankings, ranked 215th overall. So Nelson Caesar was the 6th highest ranked player that was not drafted. This guy was 215, which is also quite high. So if Nelson Caesar was 6, there was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 guys that were ranked higher than this next player that were not drafted. So he's the 17th highest ranked player that was not drafted. You want to take a guess at who the second highest ranked Seahawk undrafted free agent is? I'll give you 1 second. In fact, I'm going to give you a second and I'm going to close my door because we get a little bit of an echo in here and hopefully you're not hearing that, but I want to make sure you're not. 1 second. All right, I'm back. All right, the second highest ranked Seahawk undrafted free agent and 16th highest, or I guess 17th highest, maybe it is, ranked player that was not drafted, 215th overall, is Garrett Greenfield, the offensive tackle out of South Dakota State. Garrett Greenfield. So Garrett Greenfield, as we go and take a look, let's find out what we can find about Mr. Greenfield. Garrett Greenfield was the 22nd ranked tackle on Dane Brugler's list. Now, remember, this was a fantastic tackle draft. Couple things, actually. Let me take a moment on this. A couple things to kind of keep in mind. On one hand, there were some positions that were deeper. Tackle is one of them. So you can imagine that players that are available for tackle might be better as undrafted free agents than in a normal year because other teams that needed tackles probably drafted them earlier. They took a bunch of them, and that left some other guys undrafted. On the other hand, this was expected to be one of the weaker years at the end of the draft due to NIL and people returning to school. And so some of your undrafted free agents are going to be guys that wouldn't have even been undrafted free agents in previous years, but it's just a thin class overall. So keep that in mind as we go through all these names. But Garrett Greenfield, 22nd overall at tackle. He is 24 and a half years old. He was born in the last century, 1999. All right. And he was a 6-year player, primarily played left tackle. He did have a year where he played right tackle, but mostly it looks like 31 starts at left tackle, 55 starts at right tackle, if I'm reading this right. He is 6'5.5", 311 pounds, 10-inch hands, 34 and an eighth inch arms, 84-inch wingspan. He ran a 5.22 40-yard dash, a 1.76 10-yard split, vertical jump of 38.5 inches. That's impressive at his size. Broad jump of 9.5. Short shuttle of 4.85, I think, is also interesting. So seems like a pretty impressive athlete. Let's read the summary for Mr. Greenfield. A 4-year starter at South Dakota State, Greenfield manned the left tackle spot in former offensive coordinator Zach Lujan's balanced gap zone scheme. After 2 seasons as the starting right tackle, he switched to the left side in 2022 and became an All-American as he helped lead the Jackrabbits, one of the best mascot names, to back-to-back FCS national titles. A natural athlete, Greenfield is a rangy blocker who has no issues running the arc with edge rushers and efficiently cuts off defenders on the backside zone of runs, backside of zone runs. His 38.5-inch vertical set a new combine record for offensive linemen. I knew that was crazy. He lacks ideal length and power to keep rushers at his fingertips, which causes his rhythm to break down. Overall, Greenfield must make improvements to his anchor and recovery skills to combat NFL opponents, but he's a smooth-moving big man who is at his best on wide and mid-zone plays. He projects as a potential swing tackle in the NFL, expected draft grade 6th to 7th round. Well, I always love a great athlete. You know that. Let's see what Lance Zierlein, if he has anything to say about Garrett Greenfield. Let's go look at offensive tackles. Garrett Greenfield. Oh, hold on. I'm just going to do this. Before I do, just to give you some idea, that doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, Mike Jarrell was ranked 29th on Dane Brugler's tackle list. Garrett Greenfield was ranked 22nd. So take that for what it's worth. I don't know if there's any of these other guys that are worth calling out. Okay. For Brugler, let's see. Where does he have him? I'm just going to search for his name. Garrett Greenfield. He has a grade of 5.90. Watching him run the 40 right now. Those big men running their 40s. Now, that his 5.9 grade means he's going to be an average backup or special teamer, projected around 6 to 7 draft grade. The 6-year senior has seen his fair share of football and has shown continued improvement over the last 3 years. He plays with good quickness and is athletic in his lower body, but needs to play under control. He's capable of setting out to rush speed or getting to lateral landmarks as a run blocker. Greenfield has a tendency to play with arbitrary footwork as both a run and pass blocker, which curtails his contact balance and consistency to sustain. He'll need to improve his core strength and protection technique to play in the NFL, but he has enough talent and athletic ability to compete for a backup role. Let's see what we've got here in PFF. Do they have? They do not have him listed. All right, let's check out his RAS score. Garrett Greenfield. Whoops. Not seeing it, but he should have one. I'm pretty sure. Let me look in another place. Interesting. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this because I want to know. We're going to build our own RAS score. I can put it in there for Garrett Greenfield. Garrett Greenfield, position, offensive tackle. You guys are going to have to wait with me, and I know you will because we're all good buddies here. I got to enter all of these numbers for him, okay? Let me go back to the numbers he put in. All right. Offensive tackle, hand size, 10 inches, college, South Dakota State, arm length, 34. Let's just say 34. Let's just say 34. Height. How does he do it? I got to make sure I get this right. Apologies. Just hold on a sec. I think he does it like this. So it'd be like 0.6056, something like that. Yeah, something like that. And then 313 pounds. And his 40 time was 5.22. And his 20 time was 2.98. And his 10 yard is 1.76. And his bench he did not do. Vertical he did was 38.5. His broad jump was 9.5. Oops. 0.95. Is that right? Did I do that right? There we go. 9.5. His short shuttle was 4.85. His 3 cone was 7.76. All right. Build the RAS card. All right, folks. You're going to see it here first. The first RAS card ever built for Garrett Greenfield. Let me share my screen so you can see it with me. All right, 8.74 is the RAS score overall for Garrett Greenfield. His size grade is good, 60th percentile kind of size. His explosion grade, elite. That vertical jump, 100th percentile, never been better. His broad jump, 95th percentile. Speed grade is good, 65th percentile or better. It's interesting that his 10-yard split is 87th percentile. That's what matters more for certainly a offensive lineman. His agility grade, just okay. But his 3-cone's pretty good, 65th percentile. So, as I thought, a pretty interesting athlete. Let me double check. Is that working? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to save that for future use. And thank you to Kentley Platty for such a nice capability to build our own RAS score on our own. So interesting. I think, why don't we take a look at his mock draftable? Why not? He's one of the highest ranked guys on the board. He does not show up in mock draftable. So, all right. That is Garrett Greenfield, your second highest ranked undrafted free agent. Third highest ranked undrafted free agent. These are not the guys you're going to think they are. They're not the guys I thought they'd be. Nelson Caesar, I had a feeling, but I didn't know about some of these others. The third highest ranked undrafted free agent is Carlton Johnson, the cornerback out of Fresno State. He is ranked 273rd on the big board. So still quite a bit higher than a lot of other guys that did get drafted. And Carlton Johnson, let's start in the Beast, Dane Brugler. Carlton Johnson Jr. is 5'10 and a half, 173 pounds. So it got to be a nickel corner, I'd have to think. He was graded as a 7th round priority free agent kind of guy. So right around where he ended up going. He's a California guy. Played some different sports like basketball. He's played wide receiver and corner. He is also on the older side. He is a 6th-year player. I don't think I have his age in here. He did run track. Ran a 10.77 100. 21.8 200. So that's impressive. He was a 0-star recruit, for what that's worth. So he started at Southern Utah. He moved to Fresno State. He had 4 interceptions last year, 11 passes defensed. He has a track background and sprinting speed, and that's clear on tape. He ran, holy crap. Oh my gosh, that jumps off the page. Do you want to guess what his 40 time was? That's fun. Carlton Johnson ran a 4.2840. Yikes. That is flying. That is flying. 4.2840. Wow. Interesting. His vertical jump is only 30 inches. I know he's short, but still, that for little guys with that kind, you'd expect more. 9'11" broad. That's much more impressive. All right. So, summary. 2-year starter at Fresno State. Johnson was a perimeter cornerback. So he was an edge cornerback and defensive coordinator, blah, blah, blah. A late bloomer in high school. He worked his way from FCS to JUCO and then Fresno State, where he accounted for 18 passes defense and 20 games played. Johnson has big time speed to match receivers vertically or close on plays. His 22.17 mile per hour was the fastest recorded during the 2024 Senior Bowl practices. So the fastest player recorded during the Senior Bowl. However, he can struggle in man coverage because of inconsistent balance in his transitions and a streaky ability to find the football once his back is turned. Overall, Johnson works well from off coverage and his wide vision and drive speed, but is an average twitch athlete, and his lack of size and strength will be tough to overcome in the NFL. He needs to prove himself in the nickel or special teams to make a roster. So, this guy is 5'10 and a half, 173. He's not a big guy. I weigh more than him by a decent amount, unfortunately. And that speed is interesting. One of the things with some of the track guys is sometimes that speed takes a little while to build up. And also, it sounds like maybe he is not necessarily great at reading things, but is more of an off zone kind of player. We've seen that a little bit in preference from Mike McDonald. He wants guys that are able to play those zone coverages and break up on the ball. But that 4.28 speed, not going to lie, I like that. He's only got 30 and an 1/8 inch arms. So he has got some shorties, but he's only 5'10 and a half. That's kind of what you'd expect. Let's see what Mr. Zerline says about him, if he says anything. Carlton. Yeah, he does. All right. He has got him down here as a 5.69 grade. Candidate for bottom of the roster or practice squad. Athletic cornerback with quality ball skills, but missing the functional size for the league. Johnson plays with good mirror and match footwork from press and has some talent to make plays on the throw from trail positioning. He's athletic in space and transitions on route breaks with adequate quickness. He's struggled staying with Colorado's deep threats, but the speed he showed at his pro day alleviated concerns about his ability to carry vertical threats. His size and build should force him to play inside, and his limitations in run support could be a major red flag for teams. Let's see if PFF has anything to say. I doubt they will. They don't. Let's see if he's got a RAS score. Carlton Johnson. He does. He's got a RAS score. It is not particularly great. He's a 30th percentile athlete. Poor size, poor explosion. I talked about that 30-inch vertical. That is under 1 percentile, under the first percentile, 0.70. Broad jump, only the 44th percentile. His speed grade is great. So 99th, 100th percentile 40-yard dash. His 10-yard split is not great, 68th percentile. And his agility grade is very poor. His shuttle, 13th percentile. His 3-cone, 15th percentile. That is not a good profile for a slot corner. If you're going to be that small, you're going to have to play slot. And one of the most important things for a nickel corner is agility and ability to move laterally. Having very poor agility grades, also having a very poor vertical when you're 5'10", not great. Although that 4.28 40, I get why he's in a camp. That would be fun to watch. So that's Carlton Johnson. Let's keep going. Who is the next highest ranked undrafted free agent? Okay, now we get to a player that I know a lot of people are excited about. The 301st ranked player on the big board, the consensus big board overall. His name is George Holani, running back out of Boise State. Running back out of Boise State. I see Jeffrey Force saying maybe Carlton can be a special teams gunner. Possibly. But speed is only one aspect. You really need to be able to get off blocks and have some strength. And you also do need a little bit of vertical ability or lateral agility to get around the blockers and to find the player that you're trying to tackle. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I'm intrigued by the speed, but that athletic profile doesn't seem promising to me for Mr. Johnson, the cornerback out of Fresno State. Okay, so George Holani ranked 301st on the big board, running back. All right. And let's see what different people have to say about George Holani. Why is that not working? Oh, okay. George Holani. I know I've got somebody on this channel who's a huge George Holani fan. Said he's just going to blow things up. We don't know how good of a player we got. He was the 24th ranked running back on Dane Brugler's board. Gave him a grade of 7th round to free agent. He had him graded higher than like Frank Gore Jr., for example. But it was 24th out of 33 players. So not particularly highly thought of. He is 24.4 years old. He is 5'10", 208 pounds. He is one of 11 children and was born in Auckland, New Zealand. His parents are of Tongan descent. They moved to California and moved around several times. He was introduced to rugby at age 5 by his father, who was a professional rugby player in Australia and New Zealand and now coaches. Though rugby was Holani's first love, he picked up football at age 8. After the family moved to Los Angeles, he enrolled in St. John Bosco High School, all-boys school in Bellflower, where he's a 4-year varsity letterman. He started out as a linebacker and punter. There's the rugby background. Before switching to running back full-time and rushing for 453 yards and 5 touchdowns as a sophomore. He helped his team to a state championship. As a junior, he shared the backfield with top recruit and good friend, quarterback DJ. I'm not going to try. A name that I'm not going to pronounce properly. Became the starter. And where did I lose my thought? All right. So, oh, there it is. He posted 1,152 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns, had 20 catches for 300 yards and 6 touchdowns. As a senior, he led them to a 13-1 record. His only loss coming to Bryce Young. Finished the season with 1,200 yards rushing, 8.6 yards per carry, 18 touchdowns, and 7 receiving touchdowns. He also played rugby throughout high school and lettered in track, setting personal best for 11.55 seconds in the 100-meter dash. Interesting player. He was a 4-star recruit. He got several offers from Pac-12 schools, including Arizona State, Cal, and Utah. And he then committed to Boise State. Oregon made a late push. Holani has double-digit relatives who have played or are currently playing in the NFL, including 2006 first-round pick Haloti Ngata. He graduated with a degree from Boise State, accepted his invitation to the 2024 Hula Bowl. Again, a 5th-year senior. Some of his measurables, again, 5'10", 208, 4'5", 40, 39-inch vertical, 10.7 broad. Woo! That is a serious broad jump. 4.33 short shuttle, 24 reps on the bench. Modest build, but runs stronger and more violent than he looks. Sees the field well, pre and post snap, anticipates blocking and pursuit angles, adjusts his footwork to press the hole and cut accordingly. Runs with physicality, but creates average knee churn and will struggle to power through congestion. An NFL scout said, "I really thought he would be bigger in person. Not a twitchy stop runner that will make NFL linebackers miss in the hole. Looks great in pass pro on some tapes, but shaky on others. Battled several injuries over the last 4 seasons, leg muscle, Was sidelined with a torn left MCL. So he has an MCL. Limited special teams resume aside from punt return. And he will turn 25 as a rookie. After his breakout freshman season, Holani battled injuries, but he was consistently productive when available and finished career number 5 all-time rushing in Boise State, just behind Jay Ajayi, who had a decent career. As one might expect, given his rugby background, Holani runs with physicality, patience, and great feel for run angles to give tacklers the slip and consistently maximize what is in front of him. Though toughness is his calling card, NFL scouts say he might be too tough for his own good and he'll need to be protected from himself to keep his name off the injury report. Overall, Holani isn't super twitchy and his injury history might be an issue, but he has outstanding reactive instincts and a well-rounded skill set that NFL coaches will trust in any situation. He can be a depth piece on an NFL roster. I love the sound of that. I got no problems with that. I think you could have said the same thing about Chris Carson. So I'll take a player who runs too hard. I'll definitely take that guy. If we look at Mr. Holani from Zerline and Lance Zerline, and by the way, I love rugby players in the NFL. I think it's a fantastic skill set to bring. He is a 5.93 grade, meaning he'll be an average backup or special teamer. Had him as a round 7 draft pick. Decisive runner with good size and power, but a limited ceiling. Holani is disciplined to keep runs on track and is a classic one cutter, able to stick his foot in the ground and take it downhill with crisp cuts. He lacks the burst to beat arm tacklers through the line of scrimmage and is far too linear to jump cut his way around sudden tacklers in the hole or in space. He runs with context balance and falls forward through contact. Holani's productivity has been solid when he's been on the field, but durability appears to be a legitimate concern based upon his injury history. Let's see if we got anything here. Nothing there. Okay. Let's check out RAS score. Does he have? He does. He has got a RAS card. He is an 83rd percentile athlete, which is good. It's very good. His size grade's just okay. His bench press at 24 reps was 91st percentile. His explosion grade, elite. 95th percentile vertical, 95th percentile broad. That is the profile of a power back. Explosive, strong. His agility grade, though, is poor. 3-cone was 28th percentile. Shuttle was 53rd percentile. His speed grade is just good, which is not bad. His 40 was 78th percentile. So what you've got here is a not breakaway runner, but neither was Chris Carson, by the way. And someone who is strong, explosive, decisive. And if we take a look, let's do at his mock draftable. Comparable athletes at running back. Tajay Spears, the Titan, is it comparable? Oh my God. Robert Turbin. Let's hope he's not Robert Turbin. I like Robert, but I did not enjoy watching. Little known story. I was at Robert Turbin's and Russell Wilson's first game in Arizona, watching that game. I sat next to Robert Turbin's dad, watching his son play in his first NFL game. That was fun. We had a good time. Although the Seahawks did not pull that game out. Doug Baldwin, I think, had his teeth knocked out trying to stretch out for a pass from Russell Wilson in the end zone. Should have won that game. All right. That is George Holani. I think that guy's got a decent shot to make the roster, to be honest. I think that guy's got a decent shot to make the roster. The Seahawks are looking for a fourth running back, someone that can be a special teams guy, somebody that can just be available. And I think I think he's got a pretty good shot. And if I remember correctly, I think he signed a big guarantee. I'm watching some of his highlights. Decent screen player. Some decent moves here laterally. More than it sounds like they give him credit for. Looks like a decent receiver of the football as well. He is not the most sudden lateral mover, but he is really like a one-cut guy, which I like. And I think is the kind of player that is going to get every bit of yardage out of every play. Contracts. Guaranteed. Yes. So he gets a $15,000 signing bonus and $100,000 guaranteed. That sounds like a guy that's got a pretty good chance to make the squad. So George Holani is probably a guy you can pay attention to in this draft and drafted class. All right, let's keep going. We're an hour in. I think we've gotten through like 4 guys. I don't know. I'm going to see how many I can get to before I lose steam. All right. Next guy on the list is not that far down. George Holani was 308 on the big board. Torrance was 303. Okay, sorry. George Holani was 301. Torrance is 308 from Arizona State, cornerback. All right. We're going to move a little bit faster now. Whoops. What happened there? Yeah, Torrance. Torrance was the 42nd ranked cornerback on on Brugler's board. Well down the list. It's 42nd out of 54. So very low on the list. He's 23 years old. He had 2 interceptions in college, 14 passes defensed. He is 6'3", 206 pounds. So he's a big dude. Outstanding size and body length, uses long arms. His arm length is 34 and an 1/8 inch arms. That is long. Uses long arms to jam and reroute receivers. Better play speed than time speed because of long galloping strides. Ability to quickly gear down to match route steps. His length shows downfield. His ability to cast a shadow on the catch point. His size tilts 50-50 balls more in his favor. He was used more as a blitzer in 2023. Had 2 sacks against Fresno State. Quick to read run and doesn't hesitate getting downhill as a tackler like that. Large wingspan expands his tackling radius, and there is power behind his strikes. Said the coaches challenged him to step up and be a leader, and there was complete buy-in from him throughout his senior season, and the coaches said, "I'm so proud of him." His poor testing numbers will be a bright red flag for teams. Struggles with quick twitch receivers who evade him at the snap. He needs more repeatable and be efficient in his stance and footwork. Guilty of grabbing and using his length for the wrong reasons. Called for holding and pass interference a decent amount. Put himself on the radar the NFL radar with the Sun Devils, and his coaches grew as a defensive leader. Supersized cornerback, Torrance uses his long limbs and physical demeanor to engulf receivers at the line of scrimmage. His uninspiring athletic profile will be a turnoff for teams, though his technique and ball instincts are underdeveloped. Overall, Torrance needs better consistency with his coverage reactions to mask the delay in his transitions, but his body length and aggressiveness will appeal to press man defenses. He's a developmental cornerback with special teams potential similar to Israel Mukuama, who I have no idea who that is. I should act like I know all these guys. Oh, yes, I know all of them. I'm an expert. So let's look up what Lance Zierlein has to say. Torrance, he has got as a 5.69 grade, candidate for bottom of the roster, a practice squad. Has him as a free agent, not as a draftable prospect. Long-limbed press corner with physical attributes certain teams are sure to covet. Torrance is a menace from press, where he crouches and jabs the release with relative consistency. He has the tools to smother simple routes, but gives away separation to sharper break points. He can stride with deep routes and has the makeup speed to close ground when he's beaten. He's not built for mirror and match coverage and is very average in deep zones. Torrance can flip the 50-50 ball in his favor, but might not have the instincts or ball tracking to post the production one might expect from a player with his traits. He will be at his best working with limited coverage focus and press man, but his execution as a tackler is a concern. All right, I'm going to guess that he is not here. Yep, okay. Let's see if he's got a RAS score. Torrance. He does. His RAS score is not good. 22nd percentile. His size grade is elite, which is we just heard about. 98th percentile in height and weight. Explosion grade, poor. Speed grade, very poor. Agility grade, very poor. Under 1 percentile in speed grade. Sorry, agility grade. So this idea of if he doesn't get his hands on you, he's going to have trouble is the reality. And so if you have him going up against DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill, you go up against some of these guys that are going to beat him off the press, he probably doesn't have the physical traits to handle that, and he'll just be in trouble. But he does seem like he's got some potential. His speed grade 4.6940. I mean, he's got the size to be a little bit interesting. It sounds like they did use him as a blitzer. Don't know. I mean, when you got that 34-inch arms and 6'3" height, there's something that'll be interesting for coaches to play with. All right. That is Torrance. Going to keep going here. Finally, a name I think a lot of people expected to be higher on this list. The 312th ranked player on the consensus big board, that is an undrafted free agent for the Seahawks, is Jack Westover. I'm not going to go deep on Jack Westover. I think folks should know Jack Westover, but let me give you a couple things about. I'm not going to read about him because I think a lot of folks know him. Oh my gosh, why won't this work? Okay. He was the 14th ranked tight end on Brugler's board. He gave him a 7th round grade. He is almost 25 years old. He is 6'3", 243. He did not do workouts because he was dealing with a thumb injury. So we don't have his 40 grade, 40 speed, all that kind of stuff. So we're not going to have a lot of the physical stuff other than some of these basic length things. Here's what, and I think actually Brugler says this well, so I'll read this out. Overall, Westover isn't a special athlete or smash mouth blocker, but he's a well-rounded player in a smaller body who catches the ball really well. His special teams background will help his chances, and he could fit best in an offense like those found in Miami or San Francisco or maybe Seattle with the newly hired Grubb. Schemes that creatively use the H-back position. That's kind of smaller dude. He's only 6'3", 240, 245. He makes fantastic catches. I don't think he's got a lot of speed to offer after the play, but he gets open. He creates separation. I think he runs good routes. I think he can be a Kyle Juszczyk kind of guy. And I don't think it's crazy to think that they might use him a little bit in kind of a fullback role now and then out of the backfield. I think he's got some flexibility in where he can play in the offense. And I just think he's a guy that you heard if you listen to this show. I was just assuming he was going to end up in Seattle as a free agent. There were some times that people were predicting he would get drafted as high as the 6th round. It's a thin draft, so maybe, but he's generally not the profile of a guy that is a draftable player. Zerline, for what it's worth, has him as a 5, 6, 7 grade candidate for the bottom of the roster or practice squad. He does see him as an H-back as well. Does PFF have anything on? Yeah, they do. PFF have him as a 277th ranked player on their big board. In case you're curious about his grades, he had a 74.5 grade as a senior. Had a 50% contested catch rate, which is quite good. He did have a run block grade of 73.3. He's a willing blocker, even if he's not the biggest guy. I think Jack Westover has a pretty decent chance of making this roster. I'm going to look up. I think he also got some guaranteed money. He got a $25,000 signing bonus. I think that's the largest we've talked about so far. And $50,000 of his salary is guaranteed. So $75,000 total guarantees. We've seen $100,000 in guaranteed for some of these other guys. But again, it's not going to make or break a team if they guarantee $100,000 to a guy and they cut him. But I believe that is indicative of a player's value in the open market and the likelihood that the team is going to give him a long look before they decide to go in a different direction. So Jack Westover, tight end from Washington, 312 on the consensus big board. Next, 321 on the consensus big board is Sundiata or Sonny Anderson from Grambling State. He is an edge player. Let's see what people have to say about him. If I could type. He is the 35th ranked edge player out of 40 on Dane Brugler's big board. That is not great. Says overall Anderson, he's 6'4", 247. He's almost 24 years old. 6-year player. Had 5 sacks last year, 11.5 tackles for loss. He played baseball, basketball, and football in high school. He battled serious health issues in his first season, but had a breakout junior season and followed that up with a strong senior year. He's leaner build, but long arms to continue adding bulk. And you're going to need to get stronger to match up with NFL blockers. He has shown the ability to win in different ways, including long arm and violent chop moves. His motor and ability to close in pursuit are lasting takeaways from his tape. Anderson is an underpowered prospect who needs development time, but his light feet, long arms, and pass rush promise are appealing traits. Okay. Let's see if he's got anything from Mr. Zerline. Does not look like it. We're getting to the bottom of the list for these guys. Let's see. Does he have any testing? 4'8", 340. 33, almost 34-inch arms, so that's good. At 6'4" with 34-inch arms, that's interesting. He is on the lighter side at 247, but, you know, if he can put on 10 pounds, then you're right in the right range for Mike McDonald's outside linebackers. 38.5-inch vertical, 10.3 broad. I'm guessing he does not have a RAS score, but let's take a look. Oh, he does. Awesome. Thank you, Kent Lee Platty. Appreciate you. He is a 60th percentile athlete as a defensive end. His size grade is okay, 70th percentile. Vertical, his explosion grade is good, 87th percentile broad jump. Speed grade is okay, 48th percentile 40. His agility grade is good, which is a good thing for an edge player. His 4.34 shuttle is an 82nd percentile number. His 3-cone is 59th percentile. So that's not terrible. Let's see. I'm going to do a little mock draftable for him. Does he have one? I bet he doesn't. Nope. No mock draftable. Okay. Honey Anderson. We're going to get through a couple more guys. I mean, I got to tell you, some of these guys are very low on the board. Including the Seahawks have the second lowest ranked guy on the board, who I probably will not get to today. I'll tell you who he is, just so you know. At 867, tied for 867 out of 874 players, D. Williams, a receiver out of Tennessee. 867. That is low. All right. So let's get back to it. All right. Next player is Easton Gibbs, the linebacker out of Wyoming, 352. And let's take a look and see what people say. All right, Easton Gibbs, the linebacker, is Easton Gibbs. Let's see where he is here. I will tell you, he's got good name skill. I like the name, and I like that he is from Wyoming. The Seahawks have a decent history. The Brock Coyles of the world, from these Wyoming, Montana linebackers that end up good special teams guys, good off-ball linebackers that are decent tacklers, high hustle guys. Who knows? I have a decent initial feel without knowing anything about this guy. Easton Gibbs is 25th on Dane Brugler's linebacker list out of 32. So not high. Not high. He is 6 feet tall, 232 pounds. He is 23 years old. He was a basketball and baseball player, football player growing up. He was going to make baseball his full focus, ended up going with football. He was starting quarterback. I'm reading that because he earned all conference honors as a hybrid cornerback, safety, linebacker, and finished with 99 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. This is high school, by the way. That's an interesting note. Cornerback, safety, linebacker. Sounds a little bit like Cole Bishop. As the best player on the roster, Gibbs was named the starting quarterback as a senior, a left-handed passer, and completed 60% of his passes for 1,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He added 734 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. On defense, he posted 45 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 interceptions, and he also returned kicks. They went 1-21 during his sophomore and junior years. He turned away transfer opportunities and led the program to 6 wins as a senior and a spot in the playoffs. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. He was named County Player of the Year as a senior, and he also lettered in baseball. That's kind of a fascinating background. Trusts in his instincts, fuels the energy in his feet, anticipates play designs well with the diagnosis skills to pick up subtle clues, moves well laterally to scrape and find the football, body control and timing, limited the missed tackles on his film. Easy to spot that he's a former quarterback with the way he reads the passer's eyes and jumps routes. 0 penalties committed in 2023. Comes with 0 concerns about his work ethic or focus. Added nearly 40 pounds since his rolling as a 193-pound safety. Voted a team captain in 2023. Was a 3-year captain in high school. Has been a team leader at every level of football. An NFL scout said he is the ultimate process guy. A player General Patton would have loved. Excellent tackle production as a starter. His size alone will eliminate him from some draft boards. He's short-armed, struggles to escape once blocked, cover him up. Shortest wingspan among linebackers at the combine. Overall play strength is a concern and will struggle to hold his ground versus NFL power. Abandon his run gaps at times to avoid lead blocks. His speed is adequate, but won't close the gap while chasing backs or receivers. His length and aggressive tendencies will be more noticeable in tackle attempts in the open field versus NFL athletes. He wasn't a regular on special teams the last 3 seasons. With his aggressive play recognition, Gibbs finds quick routes to the football and uses sound tackling technique to get his man to the ground. However, he doesn't have the length or take-on skills to work off blocks and struggle with NFL athletes in coverage. His instinctive tackle hunting gives him a chance. He projects best as a weak side linebacker or special teamer. I don't know, guys. I like Easton Gibbs. Oh my God. Is this what he looks like? Oh my God. I'm going to have to show you guys a picture of this guy. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Zerline has him as a free agent, average size, falls below the cutoff line as an NFL athlete. He lacks explosiveness and suddenness in his play. College production is a nice starting point, but he might not have the athleticism or skill level needed to make a roster. Easton Gibbs. Let me get a picture to show here for you guys. This made me laugh. Yeah. Let me share this screen. There you go. There's Easton Gibbs. Look at that. Look at that face. How can you not cheer for Easton Gibbs? Yeah. All right. Well, I love his story. I love that part for sure. He is a small dude though, but he's going to have to be a Brock Coyle like player. And he's got a shot. I wouldn't count Easton Gibbs out. Guys like that find a way. All right, now we're getting to another name that I know people have liked or been interested in hearing more about. This is the 372nd ranked player on the big board. His name is Hayden Hatten. He's a receiver out of Idaho. Hayden Hatten. Oh my gosh, why does that always happen? Hayden was the 61st ranked receiver for Dane Brugler out of wow. Out of 313. That's not that bad. 61st. He was any of the guys ranked around him. I don't know if there's any of these guys that people would know. Yeah, I'm just going to get into it with Hayden. So does not have any write-up about him. He is 6'1", 207 pounds, ran a 4.69 40. 161 10-yard split is not bad. 39-inch vertical is good. 10-foot broad, not bad. 4.22 short shuttle. Seems like a potential interesting mover. At least be interested to hear more about him. Let's see if Mr. Zerline has anything to say about him. He does not. Let's see if there's anything other places. Hayden Hatten was 300th on the PFF big board. He had a 90.6 receiving grade. Only had a 1.1% drop rate. That is elite. Grade versus man coverage, 66.8. So not a great man guy. He's a zone player. His grade was 90.6 this year. It was 91.8 last year, the year before. He dropped just one of 177 catchable passes thrown his way over the past 2 seasons. However, he's limited as an athlete, which will mean he'll have an uphill battle to stick in the NFL. Let's see if he has got a RAS score. I think he should. There it is. Hayden Hatten. Hayden Hatten's RAS score, 67th percentile athlete. Short arms, 31-inch arms. His height, his size grade is good. His bench press, 64th percentile. His explosion grade is great. 39-inch vertical is 93rd percentile. So if you're 6'1" and you got 39-inch vert, that's interesting. That's like Ricky Pearsall-y. 69th percentile broad. Speed grade's poor. 4.69 40, 21st percentile. 161 split is 44th percentile. His agility grade's actually just okay. But his shuttle, I was right, 70th percentile shuttle. So that's not bad, but his 3-cone was 34th percentile. I think an interesting guy. Someone to watch. Let me take a quick look here. What kind of player he looks to be. He's number 84, by the way. And let me just see him as a mover for a second. I want to see. All right. Likes the jump ball. Likes the jump ball. A little bit different than I was expecting, to be honest. Yeah, he does like to high point the ball. Almost all these highlights I'm seeing are him going up and getting it. With a 39 vertical, that makes sense. Yeah, so it looks like a jump ball kind of guy. Yeah. All right. And like we said, there has dropped only one pass at 177 opportunities, which is impressive. So good hands, a guy to watch. Let's keep going. Wow, we're 90 minutes in. We're gonna keep going. I guess I really want to skip Mike Nowitzki. He is the next guy on the list. He's 508 on the board. He's a center. Let me see if there's something here that I find interesting, but I'm guessing I'm going to skip this guy because I want to talk about some of the other players that Nowitzki was 25th on Dane Brugler's board for, I guess, interior lineman. Yeah, I think so. 6'3", 309. Yeah. I don't think there's anything there worth talking about. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on him. Going to keep going. Aaron Beasley, linebacker out of Tennessee, is 555th on the big board. Sure. Let's take a look. Anywhere at linebacker, we've got to take a look. Aaron Beasley was 69th out of 211 linebackers for Brugler. 6 feet again, so another shorty. 220 pounds, 4'8", 140, 161, 10 yard split, 32.5-inch arms. Let's see. Does not show up there. Let's see if he's got a RAS score. Aaron Beasley does have a RAS score. Kentley Platty doing it for us again. He is a 34th percentile athlete overall. Very poor size, so very small. Very poor explosion grade. Speed grade is good. His agility grade is okay. I wonder if there's any chance they see him as a safety. I'm going to just do that as a option here. His size becomes great in that case. Everything else is poor. I don't know. Aaron Beasley sounds like nothing particularly interesting there. I'm going to keep going because there are some other guys I'm kind of more interested. Okay. Devere Levelston is 6'11" on the big board. He was a teammate of Byron Murphy. He is 76th on Brugler's big board out of 159 edge players. 6'3", 281, 507, 40. Seems like a profile of a guy that's more of a defensive end in a 3-4, like probably needs to put on a little bit of weight. Not sure there's anything particularly interesting here. We will see if anyone else has got something to say about him. Nope. Let's check out if he's got a RAS score. He does. Remarkable, to be honest. He is a 19th percentile athlete at the defensive end position. Size is good, mainly because it's 281 pounds. But I mean, this is a little confusing because they're edge players, defensive ends. I don't know. It's all messed up. I think defensive end's a hard one to get relative athletic scores for. But everything else is pretty poor. Vertical, poor. Speed grade, very poor. 507/40. I mean, yeah. Agility grade, very poor. I mean, he's got to be a guy they're looking at as a 3-4 defensive end that would put on some weight and maybe hold up against the run. So not great on Mr. Levelston, I should say. Continuing down the board, Siobhan Cordero is the quarterback out of San Jose State. Not going to get into him. Tamarick Williams, running back out of North Dakota State. Is that the right name? Do I have this right? T-A-M-E. T-A-M-E. 66 ranked running back for Brugler. 6 foot, 218 pounds, 4'6", 40, 31-inch vertical, 9'4" broad. Not a great shuttle time. I mean, he looks like a little bit like Holani, like a one cut kind of dude. Let's take a quick look at TAME. Yep, he has got a RAS score. Remarkable. He is a 45th percentile athlete. Decent height at 6 feet, 83rd percentile. Decent weight at 218, 76th percentile. Decent bench, 21 reps, 78th percentile. Unlike Holani, explosion grade, very poor. Speed grade is okay, 4.63. His agility grade, poor. So again, just sounds like a kind of bruising running back. Let's keep going. We did it. We got all the way down to D. Williams. D. Williams, the wide receiver, 867. I will tell you, he is 114th on Brugler's big board, 5'10", 190 pounds, 4'5", 40, 30.5-inch arms. Yeah. Let's see where he is as an athlete. D. Williams. He is a 14th percentile athlete. Poor size. Very poor explosion grade. There's 30.5-inch. That was not his arm length. That was his vertical. Jeez, 30.5-inch vert. 22nd percentile broad. 40-yard dash is 57th percentile. There's not a lot of interesting things here with D. Williams. The other guy that I know people are interested in, I was too, is Buda Jones. Buda Jones is like nowhere to be found on these lists. So he was a camp invite. And then got signed. I will tell you he's got a RAS score, so we'll talk about that. He at 6'1", 317 pounds. He's only got 29.5-inch arms. He's got T-Rex arms. That weight, they've got him at defensive tackle here, which is right. 86th percentile weight, but the bench press, 35 reps on the bench press, 96th percentile. His explosion grade, very poor, 17th percentile broad jump under 1 percentile, 9th percentile, whatever it is. I think it's 9th percentile. Shuttle score, 42nd percentile. I mean, this guy is just a big, strong dude with strong, short arms. No, he's never going to be a pass rusher. He does look like a guy that clearly got enough attention that they're going to bring him in. And he just looks like a guy that can plug a gap. So who knows? Who knows with a guy like that? But those are the players. I went through all of them. Can you believe it? We went through all of them. So congrats on making it through. And my kind of takeaways in going through all those guys are that I am certainly interested in Nelson Caesar. You know, sixth ranked player on the big board that was not drafted. So definitely a draftable player. He got a lot of guaranteed money, so one to watch. And the Seahawks have some things. I think his profile seems, and he looks a little bit like a Derek Hall to me, which you could decide whether that's a good thing or not. Garrett Greenfield, the tackle, also is interesting at 215 on the big board. Pretty interesting athlete. I think he set the combine record for offensive linemen in vertical jump. Not that offensive linemen need to jump much, but that just tells you the kind of athlete he is. And where he could fit, you know, Stone Forsythe. Maybe he pushes Stone Forsythe for a spot. Maybe he's just a practice squad guy that you keep around for a year and next year he becomes, you know, a swing tackle. But that's interesting. Carlton Johnson, the corner, ranked 273 on the big board. Interesting kind of guy. I think George Holani has a very straight line to the roster as a running back. Seems to make a decent amount of sense for the Seahawks and could be a good special teams player as well. Torrance is the guy with the long arms, tall dude at corner. A little bit questionable about whether he can stick with guys based off his lack of agility. Jack Westover, we talked about, I think has a decent chance as an H-back and could be a nice, versatile player. I think the comparable for me there continues to be Kyle Juszczyk. I think he's got some of that in his game. And from there, Easton Gibbs, you know, you never know. He's got the special teams profile. Hayden Hatten, he's not the receiver I thought he was. I thought he was going to be more of a route runner kind of separation guy. He looks like primarily a high point guy. 39-inch vertical, 6'2", something like that. He's an interesting player. I don't know that he's got a really decent chance to make the roster, but another one to watch. So those are the guys that stood out to me. I'm interested to hear if you guys have any that stood out to you. Please make sure you give the show a like, click subscribe, and tune in. Make sure, because tomorrow, I can't tell you for sure, but we're going to try to have a Seahawks player interviewed tomorrow. Probably will happen in the afternoon. I may still do a morning show depending on if there's something I feel like is worth chatting about. And between now and then, become a YouTube member. The link is pinned in chat and it's in the description of the video. Would love to get more YouTube members, can keep the community growing. And patreon.com/hawkblogger. The number one reason people join at patreon.com/hawkblogger is to find community with other fans. And it's a great place to do it. The Slack channel, there's Mariners talk going on all the time. There's Seahawks talk going on all the time. It's a great curation place for what's going on for the Seahawks. Great information there. Highly recommend you join. And you get the audio versions of these podcasts. So patreon.com/hawkblogger. Do it now. Until the next time, wish you all a happy Wednesday. I will see you tonight. I think we might be doing the show earlier. I said at the beginning it's going to be 8. I think it might be 7. Working it out with the fellas. I will see you then. Until that time, take care. I'm Brian Nemhauser. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings.